Hey everyone, Alan Thrall here with a new how to squat tutorial. You might have seen my old how to squat video with over 1 million views. I have learned a lot since then, enough to create a whole new video. So let's get started. This video is going to cover the barbell squat, more specifically the low bar squat. High bar places the bar high on top of your traps, and the low bar places the barbell lower on your upper back, resting on your posterior deltoids. Does this really make that much of a difference? It sure does. Even the slightest difference in bar position changes everything below it. We'll talk more about this later. Before I continue, let's talk about good technique. What does that even mean? Who decided what good squat technique should look like?
4, 5. The squat. Rule number 1, thou shalt maintain a spinal position that is as the earth, flat. Yes.
So do we even need to define good technique? Can't we all just do what feels good? I mean, after all, we are all different. Good technique for you might not be good technique for me, right? Not quite. To identify and define good technique, we have to go back to physics class for just a moment.
I'm never coming back to school, never!
Don't worry, this won't take long. I'm not going to talk about leverages and moment arms, but we do have to talk about the thing that produces the weight of a loaded barbell.
Gravity!
Every unimpeded object will fall in a direction perpendicular to the floor, what we call down. Objects don't fall sideways, diagonal, left or right, just down. This is because gravity pulls straight down towards the center of the earth. When we lift a barbell, we are applying force against gravity. If gravity is acting down in a straight line, we should apply force against gravity up in a straight line. A straight line is not only the quickest way to get from point A to point B, it's also the most efficient. Force applied in any other direction does not work against the force of gravity, so for that reason, it's inefficient. So, criterion number 1 for good squat technique. The barbell needs to travel in a straight vertical line perpendicular to the floor. Next, where should that straight vertical line be held throughout the movement? Well, since we stand on our feet when we squat, we need to find our center of balance. This is going to be the middle of your foot. Midfoot is the point of interaction with the ground that is furthest from the front and back edge of your entire foot. Midfoot is the point that requires the most amount of force to throw you off balance. Think about it, it's easier to disturb your balance when you are on your toes or on your heels versus balanced over midfoot. So, criterion number 2 for good squat technique. The straight vertical bar path needs to be held over midfoot. Since this barbell will be supported on our back, we will consider the lifter and the barbell as one system. Our skeleton must move in a way that allows the barbell to travel in a straight line perpendicular to the floor over midfoot. And this will be the foundation of good technique. So with all that said, should we perform the low bar squat, the high bar squat, or the front squat? We can move the barbell in a straight vertical line over midfoot in all of these squat variations, so does it really matter which one we choose? I'm gonna say yes, it does. Most of us are in the gym because we want to build some muscle and get stronger. If a total noob came into your gym wanting to get stronger, and he asked you whether he should perform the leg extension machine or squats, row machine or deadlifts, cable chest fly or the bench press, what would you tell him? Chances are you would suggest barbell movements over machines or bodyweight exercises. But why? I don't know, they're just better. Alan Thrall does them. If you are trying to get stronger, you need to perform movements that, number 1, involve the most amount of muscle mass. The barbell squat uses more muscle than the leg extension. Duh. Number 2, we want to perform movements that allow us to move the most amount of weight. If the goal is to get stronger, we must define strength. Strength is your ability to produce force against an external resistance. Force is what puts something in motion. The external resistance we will use is a loaded barbell. If a person squats 60 pounds today and 120 pounds next month, they have gotten stronger because they are able to produce more force indicated by the heavier external resistance. A 40-pound dumbbell goblet squat is not as potent as a 300-pound low bar squat if your goal is to get stronger. And number 3, the movements we perform should allow us to move through the greatest effective range of motion. The full depth squat is better than a half squat, and it's better than an ass to grass squat. More on this once I discuss depth. If we take these 3 criteria into consideration, it's easy to understand that the barbell squat is superior to the leg extension machine when we're trying to build muscle and get stronger. But less obvious is the observation that the low bar squat is in fact superior to the high bar squat and the front squat when the goal is building muscle and getting stronger. As you'll soon learn, when you low bar squat, you are going to have to bend over. Bending over with the barbell lower on your back allows you to move the barbell in a straight vertical line over midfoot. Bending over allows your back, hips, and hamstrings to contribute to the movement, along with your quads. All of this added muscle gets stronger in the process, and because more muscle is contributing to the lift, more weight can be lifted. We are trying to build muscle and get stronger, so this is all good stuff. With all of this said, I am not claiming that the high bar squat is completely useless and should never be performed. Plenty of people have gotten very strong from high bar squatting. Some late intermediate to advanced lifters actually use the high bar squat in their program to spare their backs a bit. Novices don't need to worry about this because, by definition, they can recover from stress within 48 hours. Every novice that I train is taught how to low bar squat, and the points mentioned in this video explain why. It's difficult and often counterproductive to teach a novice to bend over when they squat and then turn around and tell them to get more vertical. This is simply a practical analysis of the differences between the low bar squat and the high bar squat. And if we intend on using more muscle mass and using more weight through the same effective range of motion, it makes more sense to perform the low bar squat. For a more in-depth explanation and analysis of leverages and moment arms found in the squat, refer to Starting Strength 3rd edition, or follow the link that I'll include down in the description area of this video for a quicker read. Now, let's learn how to squat. Step number 1. Place your heels shoulder width apart. Point your toes out at 30 degrees. This stance is considered a neutral squat stance. An excessively wide stance causes the abductors to reach the end of their extensibility too early. And too narrow of a stance can cause your thighs to jam against your belly. Step number 2. Place your palms together and squat down. Place your elbows on the inside of your knees and push out. Your knees should be in line with your feet, femurs pointing in the same direction as your toes. This is the time to familiarize yourself with the correct squat depth. Correct depth has been achieved when the crease of your hips breaks below the plane of the top of the patellas. It's important to not squat higher or lower than this point. I will explain more later. Notice the angle of your torso, your back angle. It's not vertical. You are bent over. Also, notice your head and chest position. They are pointing down about 6 to 8 feet in front of you. Step number 3. For this step, it's going to help to have a partner. Upon ascending, you need to make a conscious effort to drive your hips up. Drive your lower back straight up. This is how you squat heavy weights. Having someone provide resistance by placing their hands on your lower back is useful for providing the right sensation. Step number 4. Get under an empty barbell. The barbell needs to be placed on your upper back in a position that allows it to be imbalanced over midfoot throughout the entire squat. This is the low bar position. Place the bar below the spine of your scapula. This is the bony ridge you can feel at the top of your shoulder blade. The bar will rest on top of your posterior deltoids. Step number 5. Unrack the barbell and step back, taking the stance width you just learned. Squeeze your chest out and keep your back tight. If this is difficult for you to do now, just do your best. You might find that it becomes easier to set your back once there's some weight on the barbell. Now, you are ready to squat down to the depth that you just learned, but this time you are not going to pause at the bottom, and your elbows are not there to push your knees out, so you're going to have to do that with your mind. Make sure you are breaking at the hips and knees simultaneously. Sit your butt back and let your knees travel out and forward at the same time. Perform 5 reps. Slowly increase the weight while performing sets of 5 reps until your next jump in weight will compromise technique. Stop there and perform 2 more sets of 5 reps. This is a total of 3 sets of 5 reps. This is the start of your linear progression found within Starting Strength 3rd edition. My coach, Austin Baraki, has said that the barbell must be placed in the correct position on your back, and it must stay there throughout the entire set. Placing the barbell too high on your back will cause it to roll up your neck during the set. Placing it too low will cause it to roll down your back during the set. Your arms and hands are there to make sure the barbell doesn't move around on your back. Once it's in the correct position, a helpful cue that Austin suggests is pin your elbows against your side. So ideally, your elbows should be in the same plane as your torso. Don't crank your elbows up way behind you, and don't try to point your elbows down to the floor. You can take a thumbs over or a thumbs around grip, flat wrists or bent wrists. Just make sure you are supporting the weight of the barbell on your back and not in your hands. Some people might find that flat wrists put a lot of pressure on the elbows. If this is the case, try keeping your elbows slightly back by bending the wrists. Conversely, if your wrists are in a lot of pain, try putting your thumbs over the bar and flattening your wrists. Keep the barbell close to the heel of your palm, not deep in your hand. And do not ever squat with flexed wrists resting on top of the barbell. Now it's time to ask the burning question. Why hip drive? This excerpt is from Starting Strength 3rd edition. The squat is literally the only exercise in the entire repertoire of weighted human movement that allows the direct training of the complex movement pattern known as hip drive, the active recruitment of the muscles of the posterior chain. The term posterior chain refers to the muscles that produce hip extension, the straightening out of the hip joint from its flexed or bent position in the bottom of the squat. These muscle groups, also referred to as the hip extensors, are the hamstrings, the glutes, and the adductors. Because these important muscles contribute to jumping, pulling, pushing, and anything else involving the lower body, we want them strong. The best way to make them strong is to squat. The squat trains the posterior chain muscles more effectively than any other movement that uses them because none of the other movements involve enough range of motion to use them all at the same time, and none of the other movements train this long range of motion by preceding their concentric or shortening contraction with an eccentric or lengthening contraction, which produces a stretch shortening cycle or stretch reflex. Squatting to correct depth is important because it involves all of the muscles of the lower body. A partial squat loads the quads in absence of the glutes, the adductors, and the hamstrings. At the bottom of a full squat explained in this video, hips back, knees out, correct back angle, several muscle groups reach a full stretch. This full stretch will produce a contraction that feels like a natural bounce out of the bottom, a stretch reflex. Do not dive bomb your squat and bounce your hamstrings off your calves. This brings me to my next point. Squatting too low is a problem and it should be avoided. Squatting several inches below correct depth requires lumbar flexion, a relaxation of the lower back. This structure should remain rigid throughout the entire squat. Maintaining tension throughout the entire squat is hard and it's uncomfortable, but it's absolutely necessary. Do not get lazy by relaxing and bottoming out your squat. Squatting too low will also cause your knees to shift forward. This is called knee slide and it should be avoided. Not only does it negatively affect the bar path, but more importantly, it causes an anterior shear on the knees. This incorrect squat technique has caused many cases of patellar tendonitis, and unfortunately the squat as a whole is blamed for knee pain. Rather, poorly executed squats are the culprit. When the knee angle is a little more open and the hip angle a little more closed, knees back, bending over, the hamstring, which connects distally to the tibia and proximally to the ischial tuberosity, provides tension backwards on the tibia, balancing the force produced by the anterior quadriceps attachment on the tibial tuberosity. In other words, if your knees are several inches over your toes, there is no force pulling backwards to balance the forces that are pulling the knees and tibias forward. This is why the third criterion for exercise selection is greatest effective range of motion. Keyword effective. Lower is not always better. Too low is inefficient. Please note, I'm not trying to scare anyone and I'm not claiming that your kneecap will explode if you perform high bar squats or if you let your knees go more than an inch over your toes. But if you are experiencing knee pain and your knees are slamming forward at the bottom of the squat, please consider the points articulated in this video and in Starting Strength 3rd edition. Last case for the squat described in this video. If you have coached dozens of normal people, you will realize that with this style of squat, your client will have an easier time reaching depth. Pushing the knees out while bending the knees and the hips at the same time is easier than just bending your knees while trying to maintain a vertical back angle. People will usually end up tipping forward or flexing their spine at the bottom of a high bar squat anyways. So, placing the barbell lower on their back and letting them bend over with a rigid spine is a much better option. Hips back, knees out, and about 1 inch over your toes also requires a lot less ankle dorsiflexion than a squat with a vertical back angle. And people who high bar squat really heavy weights end up leading with their hips anyways. Your body wants to use as much muscle mass as possible when it's squatting maximum loads. It doesn't care about isolating your quads. Lastly, this piece was almost left out, but I know it's going to be brought up, so I will quickly address it here. Many people are under the belief that the low bar squat is reserved for a certain body type. This is incorrect.
You are not a special snowflake.
Long torso, short torso, long legs or long femurs, short legs or short femurs, it doesn't matter. You can still low bar squat exactly like it is explained in Starting Strength 3rd edition. Two people with drastically different body types should still follow the steps explained in this video. The end product will look a bit different for both individuals, but the blueprint for good technique does not change. For sake of brevity, I'm going to generalize two extreme body types. Jack has a very short torso and relatively long femurs. Jill is the opposite with a very long torso and short femurs. If they both low bar squat while maintaining a straight and vertical bar path over midfoot, Jack has to have a more horizontal back angle and Jill a more vertical back angle. If Jack was to stay as upright as Jill, his knees would be several inches over his toes because he has long femurs. He would probably end up falling backwards. If Jill was to get as horizontal as Jack, the barbell would be several inches in front of midfoot because she has a very long back segment. She would lose balance forward. Their anatomy determines how upright or how horizontal they will be. So, both Jack and Jill can still place the barbell in the low bar position and utilize their hips when they squat, even though they are built differently. It makes no sense to say your body type is built for high bar squats or not built for low bar squats. So, how do you know how much you need to bend over? If the barbell is in the correct position on your back, you need to bend over enough to ensure the barbell is balanced over midfoot. Given your stance width is appropriate, toes out at 30 degrees, and your knees are about 1 inch over your toes. I hope that clears up any confusion. That's it. I hope you found this video helpful. I will be making another video in the near future covering the most common mistakes I see when coaching the low bar squat and how to fix them. Don't miss out, subscribe, and stay tuned. And always remember,
Tread on time.